Oh, excuse me. Okay, for those of you that are watching the replay, can I suggest you go and grab yourself a cup of tea now? I like to start a couple of minutes early and waffle at you, but go and grab your cup of tea and sit back and find out why you personally can outshine AI. And that's what it's all about. Let us begin. And I'm going to go over to my presentation as I chat to you. All right, so my name's Bev Hepting, if you didn't know already, and I am a master storyteller. I say so myself. Yes, all right, hands up. Nobody's ever called me a master storyteller, but it is what I specialize in. I'm an award-winning speaker. I've spoken internationally. I've done a TEDx. And I coach people to speak with confidence. And before we start this, I want to make it really clear to people, I love AI. I really do, because I'm a speaker. And so sometimes being able to write in a way that makes it easy for people to read, I will put it into an AI to make it look and be readable. But today we're going to talk about the storytelling and how your story or any story about your business or you or clients is yours. And the AI can't replicate the human voice in the same way that a human voice sounds. Now, up until a couple of months ago, I wouldn't even look at voice AI. It was too robotic. It just didn't work. And then recently I've noticed it's getting good. It is getting good, don't get me wrong. However, let us look at why it's better for you to do it. So let's start with the storytelling, okay? We hear this word bandied around a lot. Everybody's suddenly a storyteller. Everybody talks about storytelling. It's become the buzzword. Whereas actually, storytelling isn't new. Nowhere near new. It's been going on since the days that the cavemen drew signs on cave walls, and we left little pictures to tell people what was happening. Streets names and pub names were just pictures. We have been storytelling. It's part of our DNA. It's what we use to pass on information, to ensure that everybody understands. I mean, if you think about it, storytelling was the very first accessibility that came about, because people couldn't read, they couldn't write, but they understood what a white horse looked like. Hence, when somebody said, go to the white horse, they just needed to look for the picture. So storytelling is very old, and it is very varied in the way it is delivered. So the idea of storytelling being a once upon a time, it's not. We live our own stories every day, every minute. So storytelling's, it's how we really fix that image in our heads, all right? We don't remember the words of anything. We remember the images and how those images make us feel, for good or for bad. And our brain wants a narrative. It wants to follow that story. And stories, they create emotion. Okay, there's ups and there's downs, there's good and there's bad, there's love and hate. It's all in a story, that emotional stuff that makes us as human beings connect. And it's so important that we connect. And yes, we are realizing far more now that children and adults, there's a lot of people that struggle with that emotional connection and just want it matter of fact. I've got a grandson with ADHD, and you have to adapt the way you deliver that story for those people to truly understand. So being able to create that emotion, that sort of secret within the story that people hang on to, the hook, will build your connections, it builds trust. people feel like they know you. Think about it. We all think we know Cinderella, but she's made up. We all think we know her, and every little girl wants to be her at some point. And really big stories, they become movements. They become, the Martin Luther King, the story of that speech he gave. It's that emotion of him standing up and delivering that speech. And there are probably very few people who remember the whole speech, but they remember how it made people feel and how it made people react. So it becomes a movement. And a good story is how you keep people remembering the movement. So let's look at human versus AI narrative, okay? So we know, this is not about how to do storytelling. That's a whole other program I do offer if you want it. But storytelling is how you connect with your audience, how you bridge that gap between you at the front or on a stage and the people in front of you looking at you. And it is so powerful and important to your marketing and your brand that by leveraging the power of your story ensures you have greater impact on people that are listening. And if you are in an industry that's very data heavy, science or tech or education sometimes, and health, being able to break those down into stories ensures that we remember them. For example, I worked with a lovely lady who was on the anti-plastic things, and she was selling products, none of it made of plastic and really eco-friendly and all of that. But when she did a presentation, she kept putting up the number of seals that may have died because of plastic, the number of whales, and it wasn't until I said to her, just put one image of a seal and tell its story. And then when people are involved in that story, they've emotionally invested in that story. When you then put another slide up with and times this by however many thousands it was, then the impact hits because you've got them emotionally involved. We can't envisage large numbers. We can't envisage, think about the lottery. Yes, we all want to win the lottery, we want to win this 32 million, whatever, become billionaires. But in truth, we don't truly know how that feels. We can't envisage that number. So it's about breaking it down to one person, one animal, one whatever, and then expanding from that emotional point that makes it work. So AI generates data. You create meaning. So you're taking the data that AI probably has generated, and AI these days can give that information, but it's you, the storyteller, who creates the meaning behind it, because AI doesn't live. It doesn't dream. It doesn't love. It doesn't hurt. It isn't flexible. Whereas your story is part of your life experience. It's part of you. And having a genuine emotion, you can't replicate that through an algorithm. You can't replicate the unseen behind an emotion. So when you're talking to somebody and it may be something that's happened and you're telling your friends or your family, and it's, it has a huge impact on people's lives, there is an unseen, something goes on that when we hear the words, it will create an emotion, and it comes out of somewhere I can't even describe. But an algorithm can't do that. It just gives you the data, makes a prediction, can create stuff, but it's only ever created out of data, not out of hopes and dreams. You see, when you're authentic, we know, don't we? We know people that you go, yeah, I'm sure that all happened to you, or oh, they're ill again, or whatever. But we also know the people who are authentic, that have really lived those experiences, those people that have been out and done that, lived it, felt it. And that's what creates the authenticity, and that creates that sense of truth that people pick up on. We make people feel. We remember how we made people feel. We remember how we felt. We remember all that. And we remember it at an emotional level, not at a data level. Yes, data can replicate itself over and over and over and over again, but we haven't yet got to that stage where AI is actually learning so fast. But we feel, and we make people feel. And it's only human to human that creates a real emotion. And let's face it, what do we want? We want engagement. We want people hanging on to every word. So the power of that story is transformational. It can transform someone's life. It can make people feel like they're not alone. It can give people hope. And that's what we're always trying to do. So your story is your asset, a unique asset. We talk about assets in marketing and branding. Well, your story is your greatest asset because it is totally unique to you. Nobody else has lived it. It's your superpower. Nobody's been there. Nobody's done it. There may be stories generally, we hear a lot about people that grow up having been abused and they get their lives in order and they go on, addicts that go on. The general foundation of those stories may be similar, but the story in itself isn't. It never is, because we go about things in different ways. And what works for you may not work for somebody else, but nobody's lived it like you have. So by being able to use your superpower and build that credibility, build that trust, build that authenticity, then you're connecting as a real human. And don't you find in today's age, that's what we want? That every time we pick up a phone, it's an automated, control center or help desk or anything else. We all have AI bots now that answer questions without us needing to be anywhere near the computer. Everything is automated. But at its very base, as human beings, we want human interaction. We need it. It's absolutely vital in terms of making people feel listened to, trusted, safe, all of that. We don't yet really trust machines. So let's look at this in terms of, your own story as against AI generated. And I've tried this. I've actually put my story in, they put the big prompt in and got it to read it to me. And yeah, it's okay. To be fair, it got some of the resonating tones. It got some of the sort of emotion. It was okay. But it was a mimic. It wasn't real. It wasn't real. And the inflections and the tone of the voice and things became very predictable. So although AI can mimic tone and voice, it doesn't feel it. And every time we speak to somebody, we feel it, unless you're talking at someone. And that's the difference. AI talks at you. We talk to you. It doesn't have your your struggles and triumphs and challenges and everything else that goes on that create a different feel inside of you, that create a different feel in the listener. AI doesn't have any of that. It's just literally copying it over. It does not have a depth that can resonate with an audience. It is relatively flat, and AI cannot produce what I call the magic dust when you're listening to a real human. It's the difference between being at a rock concert listening to your favorite band and sitting at home and listening to the CD. Totally, totally different experiences. And that's the thing to think about with AI. It's great having a CD. The bands can sell millions of CDs and they only have to do a couple of concerts a year, but the experience for the fan base is huge. So when we talk about authenticity and credibility, people trust that real stories come from real people. We know the story of how Google set up and Facebook and Amazon in the garage with the books and things like that. They were real people. I don't think we really think about them as real people anymore. They're huge corporations, but their stories got them started. Their stories are the things we listen to, because who knows, that could be you next. And your own journey, when you're building your own credibility, the audience want to engage with you. They listen emotionally and they want to engage with you at an emotional level, because then they can trust you. We do a lot of business online that we don't speak to any human at all. And actually, I find myself very cynical about some of these sites now, and trying to find out and see if there's a real person or if it even exists anymore. So, online is a dangerous. It's like the Wild West or the American gold rush at the moment. Everybody's there, but not everybody is there for the right reason or should be trusted. So you need to find that way, and you need to tell your story and open yourself up for people to know you and trust you. And then they'll believe in what you're saying. They'll believe your message. And the other thing is about persuasion. Okay? We persuade people all the time. Selling is just persuading people. Influencing is just persuading people. And it's not about words. Words are important, but words create emotion. They create energy. They create that visualization that you have. And when you're talking to people, you're adapting in real time. You're reading the room, you're reading people, you're able to be flexible. Your tone may change. Somebody might suddenly ask a question out of the blue, and you're able to weave all that into the experience. AI can't do that. AI will just keep going. According to the data, according to the way it's been programmed, it will just keep going. So emotional depth versus surface level. So for me, your own story, your own narrative, your own voice creates emotional depth. Whereas when we talk about AI, it is very surface level because it's based on algorithms and patterns. So personal stories, they're real. They're real emotional. They're lived moments. They're things that have happened. They are memories. They are feelings. They are part of life. Whereas AI has just learned it. It's just taken bits and pieces of it and created an algorithm. And it has no emotional investment in what it's saying. It has no emotional investment in the story. It is just mimicking what you have told it to say. And that doesn't create a lasting impact. It really doesn't. Can you imagine putting your kids to bed and I know people do it, and having some sort of, even a CD reading out Cinderella, compared to you sitting there and reading out Cinderella, with all the voices and the connections, because you're engaging with your child at that point. Putting a CD on is just trying to get them to go to sleep. Two different things. So, authenticity. Well, we've talked about it. Connection, engagement. It's our voices, our victories, our struggles, our hurts, our loves, our pain. All of it is ours, whereas AI is mimicking. It's just repeating a style. It's just saying the words. As I put here, it lacks soul. It doesn't have a soul. It has an algorithm. It has data. So it doesn't grow from that. It doesn't have the passion. It might sound like it has the passion, but it won't, because it doesn't come from the heart. And we listen to people who are telling us stories that come from the heart. That's when we engage in those stories. And this dynamic engagement, and I love this, it's like, it's the arms and the hands and the voice. It's based on reaction. It's immersive. It's being able to pause for as long as you need to know when to use vocal variety, when to be loud, when to be soft, when to be faster, when to speak slow. All of that is being brought together based on you and the relationship you have with your audience. And you are creating this environment that people want to be a part of, and then they want to be a part of you and what you do. AI can't do that. It can't adapt in real time because it has a program, and it needs to get to the end no matter what. And whilst the text today is, I have to say, not bad, I come back to CD at home or out watching the band live. Completely different. And the different experiences. And the one we remember is the concert. The CD, we just listen along to and maybe remember the words. But AI doesn't have a human intuition. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't have emotion. And that is what people are buying into. So thank you for listening. And thank you for joining me. Now, if you want any more about this, you want to talk about it, get a hold of me. And we can have a free chat and see, where you are with bringing your stories alive and you actually making sure that you, take over from AI now, completely take over. Let's use AI in the way it should be used in terms of helping us structure stuff and maybe put programs together, or in my case, make the writing more readable because I like to speak, and they're two different skills. So thank you for that. And I'll be around next Monday. Not sure what we're going to be covering next Monday, but it'll all be something to do with storytelling and something to do with using your story to pitch and to get funding and investors or just a bigger audience. So thank you, and I will see you all soon. Bye.